So my name's Alan. My collaborators on this project are Nate, Joe, and Margot. Nate, Margot, and I are engineering faculty members, and Joe's an artist. And we are trying to emancipate our engineering courses by integrating making into them. We teach at Bucknell University. It's a private liberal arts college in the Northeast. We're a couple hours drive from about 20% of the US population, and we're what we call a small big. Small enough to be a community, big enough to be very comprehensive. We care very deeply about integrating making into the liberal arts at Bucknell because you cannot thrive and change the world for the better without technology in this day and age. And so we've established a network of 3 small maker spaces to bring it in outside the curriculum. And I want to give a shout out to the Kern Family Foundation and their KEEN program that's trying to instill curiosity, have students make connections between information, and teaching them to create value because they funded the work that I'm going to be talking about here. Engineering is like Iron Forge in World of Warcraft at my university. It's remote, full of technology, and hard to access. And we would like to emancipate engineering by bringing making ideas in. Engineering was started as the profession to integrate scientific techniques into industrial production. And by defining it as a profession, it gave it great status. But professions define boundaries, boundaries keep people out, and more importantly, they keep us in. And we want to break those boundaries. Our hypothesis is that we need to integrate faculty into making, and the reason they don't integrate making in their courses is 1, they're not really familiar with how accessible tools have become in this day and age, and 2, they're afraid to give projects in their courses. So we ran a summer workshop teaching fabrication skills and project, product, or project-based learning for our faculty. What we did is over the summer, we had 2 months of skills workshops, followed by pedagogy workshops for the faculty, and anybody who completed a certain number of skills workshops and the pedagogy workshops and promised to integrate making into their course got a small stipend. The skills workshops were 3 hours long, devoted to becoming competent in the tools and fabrication techniques we had in our maker spaces, and we organized these so they do things like take CAD skills before they did 3D printing or laser cutting. All the projects integrated multiple techniques. For example, soldering, Arduino coding, and 3D printing got integrated into a coffee cup holder that measures the temperature of your coffee and beeps if you tip your cup over too far and are about to spill it. As far as the teaching or pedagogy workshops, we're trying to get people to integrate problems, projects, or products into their classes. And this is difficult. You have to give them tools. This is the technology readiness level that helps people decide which of these they want to do. It turns out that P-based learning is on the far extreme of a continuum of learning called active learning that really produces better learning outcomes in students. But because it's on the far end, people need to be trained to do it well. But if it's done well, it can connect theory and practice, teach people to be self-directed learners, teach them professional skills, and surprisingly, it does not change the performance on tests or homework and other measures of learning. But if it's done badly, it can be a disaster. So we had a design methodology where people thought about a big objective for their course, broke it down into 3 to 6 explicit goals, and then mapped those goals to something called Bloom's taxonomy that a lot of educators know. Bloom's taxonomy is a hierarchical level of learning skills. For example, you have to remember to be able to understand to be able to apply, and this helped the faculty member think about what students needed when they came into the classroom. And project-based learning is the mortar that holds these ideas together. After they mapped the goals to Bloom's taxonomy, they chose a project that fit their learning goals, they mapped making skills onto the project, they developed an implementation timeline, identified deliverables, and then figured out how to evaluate it. At the end of the summer, we threw a party, we had beer and wine, and we had everybody talk about how they were going to change their course with making for the next year, and we tried to be supportive rather than be critical, because these were all volunteers. We wanted to have 10 faculty members do this, 12 did, 20% of the entire engineering college. 28 additional people took skills workshops. 95% of the people we talked to thought those workshops were worthwhile. And so this coming summer, we're doing a 3-day version for people outside of our university, inside the King Network, that have 2 days of skills workshops followed by 1 day of pedagogy workshops. and course development. And thank you for your time.